At the age of 33, Jesus was condemned to death by crucifixion. At the time, crucifixion was the worst death, believer. Only the worst of the worst were condemned to this crucifixion. So where was Jesus right before this event? He was in the Garden of Gethsemane, seeking his Father's face. This is where he cried out, sweat blood, and Jesus knew his fate. The Roman guards found Jesus and arrested him. Jesus was taken, and this is where the crucifixion part begins. Jesus is horrifically whipped and beaten in front of a laughing and mocking crowd. Now, this is the same community who was just praising him, throwing their coats at his feet just shortly before. The whipping was so bad that it tore the flesh from his body. His face was torn and his beard was ripped from his face. A whip with glass shards and other metal objects attached to the end of it going into his body, pulling out rips of flesh every time it was removed. Then a Roman guard pierced his side with a spear, and more Roman guards mocked him as they shoved a crown of thorns deeply into his scalp. Jesus had no more blood to bleed out, only water poured from his wounds. 3.5 liters of blood removed from his body, believer. A crown of thorns on his head, and beyond that, a Roman soldier stabbed a spear into his chest. All of this without mentioning the humiliation that he suffered. After carrying his own cross, a cross that was 66 pounds, he carried this for 1.5 miles. The crowd laughed and mocked at him. They threw stones at him while he was at his lowest. Jesus was nailed to a cross by his hands and feet. Each nail was driven into his wrist, and there's a tendon that extends from the wrist to the shoulder, and the Roman guards knew this, and they knew that he would not be able to experience this pain without experience without excruciating pain. There's a tendon that extends from that wrist to that shoulder, and the Roman guards knew it would tear and rip, forcing Jesus to use his back muscles to support himself so that he could barely breathe. Both of his feet were nailed together, and he was forced to support himself on the single nail that impaled his feet to the cross. Jesus could not support himself with his legs because of the pain, so he was forced to alternate between pain and pain. He was forced to alternate between arching his back and letting his weight drop onto his feet, believer. Imagine this struggle. I really want you to. Imagine this pain. Imagine this suffering. Imagine the courage. Jesus endured this reality for over 3 hours. Jesus went through this barbaric and horrific torture while getting mocked and laughed at by a crowd and died the most brutal death in history up until that point. But why did he do this, believer? Well, he did it because of me. And he did it because of you.